It's episode 53 of the DCC. I just had to restart. We got iTunes opening up on my computer. We've got Donald Glover. We're going to talk about some Solo. We're going to talk about Black Panther and Donald Glover's connection to it. No, he wasn't in the film. But we're going to talk about some of the stuff that he was involved in. We're going to talk about Krypton. Huh? And why are we going to talk about a planet that doesn't exist? Well, you'll find out. We're going to talk about Muppets getting rebooted. I'm excited about that because I was so disappointed about the Muppets getting canceled and people not understanding what the Muppets are. Mark Millar has comments about the DCEU versus the MCU, and we've talked a lot about this comparison back and forth, and it's like, when there's no Marvel news, it's like, let's compare DC and Marvel, but there's something that he had said that's quite important. He's a pretty big voice, and a pretty neutral voice at that, and so we're going to explore that a little bit, and that's it. There's nothing else to talk about. No, we're also going to talk about some stuff that Shannon and I were talking about before. And so with that, to all who come to this happy place, welcome to the worst intro ever.
Good segue. Good segue, man.
Yeah. Sick segue. Savage. See, I'm in touch with all the kids. I can say things like savage. I know what's up.
I realize I reference this mug a lot, but probably nobody knows what the quote "Am I not merciful?" is from. It's from this book called Illuminae. I highly recommend you read it. It's like the best sci-fi book I've ever read. It's awesome. It's actually on my shelf. It's the orange one on the end.
Well, we got another review. That was nice. Thank you so much. Juniper Zeal. Nice name. It's a 5-star review. Well-crafted Disney podcast. I subscribed after listening to their Disney Decade series recommended by Rob at the Tomorrowland Transit podcast. Thanks, Rob. And was blown away by their research and production quality. They have an excellent blend of humor, conversation, and facts. I love how they use the Disney company as a gateway to discuss other topics such as psychology, business, gender, politics, and of course, pop culture. Man, I love when people just really get it.
I know, right? It's like, thank you, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
That's what we're about.
That means so much to me. So 2 Josh ones in a row. I think
Josh is killing it, man.
Someone's paying somebody.
Josh is killing it.
Mm-hmm. I had someone...
somebody told me that I look like Anna, so...
Yeah, I had someone say that they were excited that the Fangirl was doing a collab with me because I seemed nice. So that was
which is a weird thing for people to say about Dale.
It is a weird thing for people to say about Dale. They usually don't say that. Except for in the construction world. In the construction world, I'm the nicest guy in the world.
So basically what happened is there have been a bunch of leaks on Reddit today. Today is the 24th, today's Saturday, about the Last Jedi novel. And one of the very first things that they say is that the novel starts off with a dream sequence of an alternate timeline Luke. And it's a Luke that dragged the droids out of the farm to give them the Empire. And he lives happily. He says that there is somebody named Camille. No wife, but this means he's not dreaming about any other wives. I'm not really sure what they mean by that, but there's something going on in the beginning of this. It's not going to go the way that we think. That's actually something that the author tweeted at some people too.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
So what for you out of the leaks, what was the stuff you're most excited about?
It sounds like there's a lot of confirmation that Hux is going to be the big bad in episode 9. There's a lot in it about him wanting to grab for power. There's a lot in it about him kind of wanting to take down the remnants of the Empire because he used those as stepping stones, and he thinks that he's got a better way to go. He wants to prove himself to people, and that he has had these illusions of maybe taking down Snoke and taking over. There's also an interesting bit where he ponders if there are cameras in the elevator, and that's early on. And if there are cameras in the elevator, then that means he'll see the exchange between Kylo and Rey, which can ultimately lead to a coup, which is a very popular theory among Reylos, especially in the fan fiction community.
Yeah. And also, too, Luke asks Rey about her royal heritage.
Yeah, he does. They ultimately come to that she's still, like, she's just orphaned. But he does bring that up. Like, he does specifically ask that. And there's also a scene where he's trying to, like, connect back into the Force. And it's something about, like, Rey being the symbol of, like, this cosmic will of the Force. And he says, like, I was wrong, like, Rey, I'm gonna come back with you. And he says that, like, right before the hand touch scene, which is actually where the leaks have stopped. We're gonna get more about it tomorrow, hopefully. So obviously when he sees Ben, like, all of that goes out of his mind. So it's kind of insane. Like, there's a lot about, like, why Luke cuts himself off from the Force. Like, what does that make him do? How does the Force play into all of this? It obviously has a huge hand in, like, what's going on here, and Rey is kind of the embodiment of that, is what it seems like.
And it's interesting. So there's a few things that I really want to, like, kind of point to. Is Kylo Ren, like, they show him building his, like, new like, fixed up lightsaber, which
there's something else about Kylo Ren too, but go ahead.
And then also it looks like I have that Super Saiyan Jedi theory, right? In the Force well and the access to the powers, and it's based off the idea that Rey will be able to do a version of Sith Rage. And it actually in this says that the Force bond will allows Rey and Kylo Ren enables her to explore and access Kylo's set of Force skills.
Yes, it does. And it also says that she can tap into his power and he taps into her memories.
Interesting.
There's also something that said that Kylo doesn't shoot Leia. He doesn't shoot on the bridge because he's not angry with her, and that he doesn't want to kill her. And it also says that if he wasn't so emotional in that scene, he would have used the Force to save her from it being shot.
Huh. And so he only killed his dad because he was mad at his dad, which is, you know.
I mean, yeah, he did. He had a lot of resentment towards Han Solo, but apparently that didn't really extend to Leia, which kind of makes sense because it sounds like him, like, especially from, like, other books and other materials, that they did have, like, a deeper connection, like a deeper kind of bond. And obviously, you know, like, a mother and son is a little bit different. But yeah, he would have saved Leia if he hadn't been in such a shocked state. Yeah,
like, I think some people too think that I'm not on Team Reylo, but I am.
Are you?
I am on Team Reylo. I'm just hypercritical of it because I want to. So there's things that. There's things that I say like how can he have redemption? He committed genocide. But actually, when you watch The Force Awakens, he is on his ship watching the Starkiller base shoot everything, and he actually kept trying to avoid them using it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only person he does kill is a person that he has a personal beef with. And he doesn't seem to kill stormtroopers, as I've talked about before. He rages out on computers and things, unlike Darth Vader.
Correct.
And so he doesn't really like to kill people.
Nope, he kind of wants to avoid conflict. He's definitely more of, like, a thinker, of a strategizer, of how can I do this in the most efficient way possible. And he does have a temper, but he never really takes that out on people. We really only see him kill Han Solo and Lor San Tekka.
Which is very interesting about the Lars San Tekka one, because that makes you think they also had a personal beef.
Yeah, I wish that was something that was explored a little bit more, because even in the novel, there's not much there to that, except for, like, him, like, not coming from the dark side, like him coming up a place of light, which I think plays into that whole, like, he's being torn apart. He's being pulled to the light side because he's had this dark just infest him from a very young age with Snoke. And it's also very interesting because Lor San Tekka, he kind of represents the old way, because he thinks that the Jedi need to come back, and he kills them immediately.
Yeah, that's right. And then also too, so as I was doing my collab with the Fangirl, which you guys should check out our video. We do a Last Jedi mega theory kind of theory craft. We're just crafting theories of, like, the thoughts that people have and the actions and just generating theories from it. It was a lot of fun. It's I kind of tried to make it in the style of her videos in a way, but I can't match her style, and it's still my style, but tried to match her style in a way, and she kind of tried to match my style in her video and included more video footage than she normally does. So it was kind of neat. It's really neat watching these like two styles kind of mixed together and like our takes on each other's style. I was putting the video together, I kind of realized that Luke went and visited the Millennium Falcon. Mm-hmm. Do you think he put the books?
Originally I thought so, but then part of the thing in the leaks was that Luke went to burn that tree down with the intention of dying with it and destroying the books. So I do think Rey stole them.
Huh. Why would she steal them? Why do you think she would care?
Because she wants to be trained. She came there for like Luke. She wants to like know how to do things.
Yeah. And
she can't do that necessarily on her own. But if she has those books, surely there's something in there that could help her. But I do think Yoda's correct in that there's nothing in them that she doesn't already possess. That's old knowledge. It's old teachings. She's going to find a new way. But I think that'll definitely get her started.
Yeah, like Luke already taught her. His legend taught her everything she needed to know and how to be.
Yeah, but I mean, she doesn't know much about like how to use her powers. Like she's figuring it out. She's figuring it out, especially from watching Kylo Ren. You can see that her style, the things that she does, comes from the way he handles a lightsaber, from how he uses the Force, because she's just learning from what she's seen. Yeah. So I would think, and plus Rey just seems like somebody who's very curious and like wants to seek out knowledge. So I have a feeling that she stole those books.
And she's adaptive, and we've seen that she, adapts to flying, she's adaptive. Like her Force ability is quick adaptation, and but she also she could fight really well with a staff. And I think people sometimes put that off to the side, and it's like, no, she was like a pretty good fighter. She had to grow up in people.
She grew up in a very hard environment.
Yeah, people were trying to steal her food probably all the time, and she's like was a little girl for most of it. So, we forget those things sometimes. And so Donald Glover talked about Solo and talked about how Solo's probably going to be the most fun Star Wars movie we've ever had because we all know everything that's going to happen, so they just were able to kind of be fun with it and take fun liberties because we know what's going to happen, so the only entertainment we're going to get is by engaging in the characters.
Which makes total sense, and that's what I'm excited for, because you want to learn more about these characters, you want to see them go on adventures and have fun, so it's nice to know that they can just kind of chill with it.
Totally. And again, the anthology films are a space in which we're allowed to experiment with Star Wars. And
exactly, and that's exactly what we should be doing too.
Yeah.
And plus, there's a bunch of books and comics that are coming out from Solo, and honestly, those look really cool too. They're gonna tie in to the road to the sequel trilogy, that kind of stuff. We're gonna get a lot of Lando, actually. Yeah. It sounds like they're saying that Lando is gonna be a standout character.
Yeah. Well, and the Lando comics that exist now are phenomenal. So I do recommend people going to check those out if you want a little bit of a Lando story. Really, really good. His relationship with Lobot is brings all the tears. And then Donald Glover also got brought in for a couple hours because they're so tight on the Marvel Universe scripts to help punch up all the jokes. Punching up a joke is you go in, I can go in and I can make a joke, and then someone can come and be like, okay, well, if we say it this way or we set it up this way, it actually makes it hit with a bigger impact. That's punching it up. Very common thing to have happen. Kevin Smith is actually not famously, because it's more of a ghostwriter. He goes in and he gets paid quite a lot of money to go in, take a script, not make too many changes, but just kind of punch up the dialogue and the conversations and the jokes and stuff like that. So Donald Glover was hired to do that. Donald Glover has been in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He's going to be Simba in Lion King. He worked on Black Panther's script, and he's going to be Lando Calrissian.
He's had a hand in everything.
Mr. Disney, he's super involved in Disney now. He has albums and songs that you would think Disney would want to stay far away from, and yet he is working in writing. He's probably going to be a producer of of a Disney film at some point in time. You know what I mean? Like I would, he'll probably take on like the Princess and the Frog live adaptation or something. You know, like.
Gosh, that'd be so great.
No, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's been so talented for so long, and it's so smart of Disney to just bring him in.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely think that was a great a great thing to do, because like you guys talked about last week, the humor in the Black Panther is very well done because it's not really trying to be anything that it's not, and it just all lands so well. Like I freaking love that film.
Well, that's the thing. I would never even say it's a funny movie.
No, but it's amazing though.
Yeah, but they hit the jokes, and really, Black Panther achieved with its humor what Last Jedi was trying to achieve with its humor in a lot of ways, and it gave the movie balance. Yeah,
it was a very balanced film.
Yeah, it gave the movie better balance, and Last Jedi just missed it a bit. We're hypercritical of Last Jedi, like of Star Wars, and they get no breaks on anything. So, you know, we have to understand that. So it's okay, but you know, they did kind of, instead of making it balanced, they made it a little bit unbalanced by doing that. So, but that's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to kind of point that out, that when it works and when it doesn't work. Have you seen the images from the Superman prequel series Krypton?
I have not. Tell me about them.
Well, so basically we're going to get like a... Syfy is going to try to do a CW version of a prequel Superman, but it's about Superman's grandfather, the father of Jor-El. And it's set on Krypton. It's so, like, I guess someone said, I guess it's just going to be about normal people with short last names. And you're supposed to laugh at my joke, Shannon. And so I wasn't like, I don't care about prequels really. Except for,
see, like, you don't care about prequels, but I really think they add a lot to like development and like characters and world building. Like, sure, you know how it's going to end, but
they can. And when a prequel is focused on backstory, I think it works well at times when it's done properly. And Star Trek Discovery has made me start to change my opinion on prequels, because I just think Star Trek Discovery is just a great character drama. And basically Syfy has won me over. Like, they're going to get me to at least watch the first episode of Krypton now because they released an image of what Brainiac is going to look like, and finally someone was just like, how about we do the Brainiac the Brainiac from the comic book? How about we do the one that people like? And it looks amazing. You should all look up what Brainiac looks like. We'll put the link in the show notes. But he looks super cool. You don't even have to know who Brainiac is to be like, oh, that looks like a cool bad guy. And Brainiac is kind of, I think, a better villain for Superman than Lex Luthor is on an ongoing basis, because he can fight Superman, for the first thing, and two, they have this. They're from the same. They have the same kind of beginnings, but Brainiac knows all the things that Superman doesn't know, and has come to a different conclusion than Superman has come to. And so it's like a battle of wills, but based off of, you know, kind of a similar type of experience. So I'm excited for Krypton now. I'm still wary though. Syfy has kind of...
That's true.
They like knocked it out of the park with Battlestar Galactica, and then they just really quite haven't been able to get it together for a lot of things, and they canceled all my Stargate shows and all that jazz, so it kind of bothers me. Yeah,
because I used to watch like Warehouse 13 on there. I think that's where like Helix was, and Helix got weird, so yeah. Yeah,
and that's the thing, and I don't know, just Syfy kind of like loses its way sometimes.
They have like a lot of really good like first seasons.
Yeah. Moving on to something else, Muppets is going to get rebooted again. Hopefully not into a variety show,
Muppets.
Because variety shows are from the 1960s and 70s, and they aren't really that interesting anymore.
No.
Like, I don't care about spinning plates. So they're going to reboot the show. I kind of actually think it's going to be similar. Hopefully, I do think it's going to be similar to the ABC show, but I think it's just going to be well, one, not listen to the audience as much, and two, just kind of maybe make some different decisions that they had made. I thought the format worked perfectly for the Muppets.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like a lot of people just didn't get it. And when you're on the streaming service, it doesn't really matter because the people that want to watch it will.
Exactly. And I don't know what they didn't get. And too many people were outraged that Miss Piggy and Kermit weren't together. Like, it actually.
I mean,
was a great part of the story.
I see what their problems were, because like I tried to watch the show and it just wasn't really like, I thought it was funny, but like I was never like super grabbed by it. And I think a lot of people just didn't understand what it was trying to be, because it's Muppets, but it's The Office, and it's like you don't really have to think that hard about it, because it was cool, it was funny.
It was The Muppets in the like, they ran a late night talk show instead of a variety show.
And I think it just confused a lot of people, like they just weren't expecting that.
But late night talk shows are what variety shows became. You know, like that's.
But again, like people just don't. People don't get that.
Right. Like Jimmy Fallon, I would say, has went kind of took an older model of the variety show and introduced it to late night talk shows, right? And kind of revitalized late night talk shows to the point where everyone has a late night talk show host. So that's exciting. So and I think it's important for Muppets to have continue to have a presence.
Yes,
especially for how much they're lacking in the park, and
I feel like
want them to buy Muppets just to kill it.
Yeah, like if they're not going to do anything with Muppets, like why do they even have it? They definitely need to be doing something. They need to have some kind of presence.
Yeah,
other than just those movies.
Yeah, and I liked the first one with Jason Segel.
Yeah, but the second one was kind of like too much.
Yeah, they always kind of just lose their way, don't they? Like I don't know what it like. I don't really, like I don't know.
Yeah, because that first one was so good, and the second one was just kind of like, okay, they did it again.
Yeah. I do, but Muppet Treasure Island though.
I was always a big fan of Muppets Take Manhattan, but I think that's just because my friend and I like to watch the scene of the Swedish chef talking about popcorn in 3D. For some reason, we thought that was hilarious, and we watched that scene so many times.
Yeah, I'm a Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island is kind of my jam. Which, spoiler, I like Treasure Planet. So,
well, I mean, Treasure Planet's amazing. So,
yeah.
Underrated movie.
I've decided now that all the people who are telling me that I've forgotten a movie in the Disney animation films are trolling me. They must just be trolling me, because like people will be like, "You forgot Wreck-It Ralph." It's like, no, I didn't forget. Whatever. It's like they know.
What about Hunchback of Notre Dame, Dale?
Oh my God! How many people need to be like, why are you throwing shade at Hunchback Notre Dame?
Josh is on it, guys. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah, like, why are you throwing shade at it? It's like, because it cost $100 million, didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do, and like no one liked it when it came out, and it actually has like the lowest Metacritic score. Actually, I think Pocahontas has the lowest Metacritic score. And it's actually funny. Those two films, Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, are the ones that like people are like, why are you talking bad about those movies? It's like, I'm just telling you where they stood in history. People didn't like them when they came out. It's great that you like them now. There's like 3 more billion people in the world, so odds are there's chances that people are gonna like those.
Here's the takeaway from today's episode of the DCC. Yeah. If you want Shannon to rant, mention Star Wars. If you want Dale to rant, mention Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because a lot of people will be like, oh no, like I don't agree with you. I like the post-Renaissance. And it's like, well, you don't have to agree with facts if you don't want to. It's not my opinion. I also like the post-Renaissance. It's not, I'm just telling you how the movies did.
Just gonna have to let it go, man.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I'm going to be doing videos about each era going into depth. And a lot of people want to fight me on like the Silver era too. And they're like, Silver era? I don't think of Disney when I think of the Silver era. But you just don't know it. And I'm going to go into why that is and that type of stuff. So it's really fun that way. Before I begin and before I move on to our Marvel moment, I have a question. Shannon, you watch a lot of like people play video games and stuff like that. I'm trying to find an RPG. It could be like high-end graphics or low-end graphics or old or new or whatever. I'm trying to find an RPG that Dash and I can play together. I just can't quite think of one.
Oh, you're coming to like the wrong person, man.
I know you watch Jacksepticeye, so you know. I'm just trying to think of one. If anyone can think of a game that they think would be good to, it's okay. I don't mind if I'm like sitting and watching and we're taking turns. I was thinking like something like Shining Force 2 or Final Fantasy 6, or maybe do like the Final Fantasy 10 remake, or like Mass Effect Andromeda, or like I'm thinking anything. So if you have any ideas on,
well, I know Mass Effect Andromeda is not good. I know that.
Here's the thing: I've played 1, 2, and 3, and so Dash has never played any of them. So I don't want to go back and play 1, 2, and 3, so I thought Andromeda would be good because I know the game mechanic system is going to still be similar, and because people had a beef that it was too similar, so that's fine. And they didn't like the story compared to 1, 2, and 3, because it's always like the people were comparing it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I know. Right now, I've mostly just been watching Subnautica because that game finally got released. That game is so cool. It's definitely, it's like resource management, but it's got a story. It's just really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm having a tough time if we want to go like retro or what, because I built the Raspberry Pi, and so I kind of have like every single game available to me. So I don't know if I want to go old school or new or what, and if anyone, maybe Monster Hunter. People seem to be liking that one. That kind of looks cool. Yeah. Anyways, let me know. Or Dark Souls, maybe, because he was saying he wanted like maybe a horror RPG.
They say Dark Souls is really good, or Bloodborne.
Yeah, I just heard it's super frustrating though too. So.
Yeah, Bloodborne's supposed to be really hard.
Yeah. And Bloodborne
like,
too, like
Cuphead's the Bloodborne of the 2D.
Yeah, and with Bloodborne 2, your gun is your shield. Actually, it's kind of interesting that way. Like it's like a gun shield mechanic where like you're shooting people and they recoil, and like that's your defense against them. Yeah, it's kind of neat. But let's get on to our Marvel moment. Mark Millar had some comments about the DC versus the MCU, and basically what he had said is that the DC's not cinematic enough, and you can't connect to the characters because Superman is a representation of an America that doesn't exist anymore.
True.
For example, obviously Batman is the exception. Everyone can relate to Batman because it's, just about revenge, and it's like pretty a visceral connection. And it kind of actually played into what we've talked about a bit before, is where my problem with the DC films is that they keep trying to focus on their big main characters and not finding their smaller characters and making them interesting. And that's and that goes back to the fact that it's the characters. And you had to put time into the characters to make Iron Man interesting. You have to put time into the characters to make Ant-Man interesting, and so forth. And with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you don't have to put time into the characters because everyone they're so ubiquitous. You're just like, just gonna have Batman and Superman fight it out. It's like, well, why are they fighting? 'Cause they fought one time.
Because their moms have the same name.
That's why they're friends again.
Yeah.
But I actually then kind of was thinking about it some more, and for me it plays into the fact, and I mentioned this before, but it was years ago. And so, we've had so many new people join in, they probably haven't heard me say this before. One of the biggest problems DC has is that DC exists in a fantasy world that has restrictions, where Marvel exists in the real world. And I had always felt it was time for DC to move into the real world. Nightwing is in New York, so it exists. And I felt that it was time for DC to live in the real world more than the fake fantasy world that they live in.
Yeah, I feel like with newer stuff, haven't they been trying to make it where, like, it is in the real world, but these are, like, made-up cities, but, like, Gotham's just, like, down the whatever from New York. Like, is that something that's happening, right?
That's right. But and that's worse.
Really?
Having Emerald City not be Seattle, but be a city beside Seattle, like, and then like they still
That's true.
They still go
That
for a
is true.
jaunt to Seattle. Like, let the cities be the metaphor of the city that they are. You know, Gotham is your New York. Star City is, your Washington D.C. or or your Chicago, wherever you want to make it. Really, Emerald City is your Seattle, and make them the metaphors of the city that they exist in today. You know, you don't need to make the characters perpetually younger in the same settings all the time after every reboot, and because the characters are starting to lose themselves. They're no longer metaphors for the world that we live in, because they don't live in the world we live in, and they don't even live in the metaphorical world we live in. They live in their very finite fantasy worlds that, like, Gotham has gone through these very specific situations. You know, they've had their cataclysm, they had no man's land, like, it's had this entire 50-year of story, and every time they reboot, that doesn't get rid of the story of the city, and they need to just make the cities metaphors of the cities they're based around, and really focus on the realism and make them metaphors again.
That is true, because there's a lot of history that goes into those cities, and they don't really try to reboot that aspect of it. They just keep rebooting the characters.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think that the TV shows do a very good job on, is that they just basically start from square one. Yes, they are in their respective cities. They're in Star City, they're in Central City, like that kind of stuff. But they start at square one, and they've built from there. Granted, they have started to lose people, especially with Arrow. I think Flash was starting to lose people a little bit. But originally, it was just like, we're going to start here, square one, everybody's a blank slate, let's go from here, instead of trying to, like, build on old themes, like that kind of thing.
Right. And so it's important because, these stories are where we start to define ourselves and learn who we are and develop a sense of ethics and morality. And if they just don't have quite enough allegory in them and touch to reality, then they lose their way. Like the Marvel comics, a lot of people have really gone downhill. And some things are really cool, but what happened is they took all their best writers and put them on Star Wars. Yeah. And then the Marvel comics had just kind of
kind of fizzled out. Yeah.
And they had some good Star Wars. They had a couple good arcs and some new reboots, and then they lose their way, and people just they get tiresome because they're losing their way. They're getting focused on the fantasy and the lore, and that happens in comics all the time, where they need to do these reboots because because the lore you can never jump in because the lore gets too rich. And so before you and I think it was an episode we did together where we talked about how comic books should be seasonal. So
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it should be, Marvel or DC should be like, this is season 12, like what's happening in season 12 of whatever, right? And be more upfront about it. Because I think what's happened now is people are like, well, I don't really want to get into it because they're just going to reboot it all anyways.
Right. Yeah, it scares so many people away because it's like, I don't know where to start. And I also know that eventually it's going to get rebooted anyway. So what's canon, what's not, how exactly do I get into this? And it scares people away. And because of that, their stories start to get convoluted. And then you get to movies like Batman versus Superman, where there's not really anything going on there. Like you said, like Superman's not super relatable. Like, why are Batman and Superman fighting? Like, if you don't know the lore of these characters, of the cities that they're in, what's going on, it doesn't really make sense to you. It's just a bunch of dudes fighting each other. Like, it's so boring.
Yeah, exactly. And Metropolis and Gotham are not as close. And then they didn't even do it right. You know what I mean? It's like, what? They're not across the bay from
and like that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, like it's just like. And plus it gets hard too because like when you know the lore, like then so many other little things get to you, and then when you don't know the lore, like you're just so confused, or maybe you are following along but it's still just not hitting the way that it should be. And that's something that I think Wonder Woman actually did a good job with, because they kind of tried to explain it to you. They knew that there was stuff that like needed to be told. It was kind of her origin story. But then I feel like thrusting her immediately into Justice League is a little bit of a weird way to go.
Yeah, well, or Batman versus Superman.
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah,
because she came off of that, and then she gets more in Justice League. So
Yeah, did you know? Have you seen the cover of the Blu-ray of Justice League? Actually,
I have not.
so if you get a chance, look it up right now. And right when you look it up, I want you to tell me what you notice immediately when you see the cover of Justice League. You're probably going to notice two things, but we'll take a moment.
It's super colorful.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
The movie is not that colorful.
No, it's not. And so it's very interesting. And they actually have the same. If you like Google Justice League, you'll see the DVD, and you'll see basically the exact same image of what it was before they released the movie.
Oh yeah, like here's the like theatrical poster.
Exactly, and it's super monochrome and monotone, and like the best thing to focus on is Wonder Woman's suit. And
or
reds
or
are brown,
like
and
it's
Superman
so blue.
Yeah,
like
and
even Flash, Flash looks like he's wearing like the regular Flash suit, not the armor.
You know what? I love it.
I do too.
I love the oversaturated color. To me, this just told me they need to go the other way, and instead of
they've gotten too dark
desaturation and going with this like old film, like tiny golden film style, they need to go oversaturation with color. Make it like it's painted, because like these like Superman and Bat, like Superman is bigger than any superhero that we can ever think of. He's it's okay that he's bigger than life, but make him like the bright shining beacons that they kind of are in essence.
Yeah, because especially like with Man of Steel, I feel like that movie is just so dark. It's such a downer. Like I just didn't feel like I connected with Superman, and like looking at that like all those colors, it looks like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And to me that makes it very misleading. Because that's not what the movie is, and I feel like that's what the movie should have been. And like you can see with Marvel, they've gotten a lot more colorful with all their stuff too.
Yeah,
they're starting to see the shift.
Yeah, and it's not to be like, oh, they should be like Marvel.
No, because they shouldn't be.
Yeah, it just the dark.
Well, because
Sorry.
That's another thing that DC does, is that I think they compare themselves to Marvel too much. They're like, oh, they're doing ensemble films, we should do ensemble films. It's like, no, like find your own voice, and they haven't been doing that. And like them finding their own voice has been to make it darker, and clearly that's not working.
It's like, you guys made the Dark Knight trilogy. What happened? Like, like why did you like forget that you made the Dark Knight trilogy? And yeah, I love the oversaturation, and like honestly the Blu-ray cover, I'm like, okay, I'll watch it.
That looks like something that I would want.
I'm gonna watch the movie with the boys today now, because I want to see it now, because I just want to see the comparison. And people are probably like, what, you hadn't seen it yet? I liked Man of Steel. Superman to me is a depressing character, and I like it. But the rest of it shouldn't be so depressing. You're kind of supposed to be like surprised that Superman's depressed. Superman's depression is something he lets people know when they become close to him. Homeboy has a fortress of solitude, okay? It's not the fortress of hangout. It's not the fortress of like party time. It's the fortress of solitude. He needs it because he hears everybody. He is constantly has the weight of the world literally on his shoulders. And well, not literally, I guess. And
yeah, but they never portray it quite like that, which is so sad, because like he's like this bright beacon of hope, and like people forget that like he's got all of that on him. Yeah, he has to take it all alone.
He's our Elon Musk. But it is, he has to take it on, and it's not like, oh, why does he that humans, and that's the thing that Lex Luthor doesn't get. Oh, humans can do it on their own. Sure, but he has to sit there and hear their cries and hear their needs for help. He has to sit there and see people who have cancer. He can see cancer in people. He can see people are dying. He could figure out cures for that, but he can't do that for people. He has to sit and let humanity figure it out on their own. And the only thing he can do is stop disasters and things that probably shouldn't occur. Mm-hmm. And like, that's a huge burden.
You know what they should do if they ever try to reboot Superman again, which they really shouldn't. They really need to just move on from that. But
they don't need to reboot it. They just need to course correct.
Yeah, they should start there. Don't let him be the main character. Let it be kind of like a Last Jedi thing where they're trying to discover, like, the legend of Superman. And to see him like this, to see him, like, with this world, this weight on his shoulders, why won't he help people? Let's explore it that way, through somebody else's eyes.
Make the focus on Jimmy Olsen or Lois Lane. Well, it's too late now, because if you're not going to reboot it, but of somebody investigating, trying to figure out who Superman is and why he is, and discovering these things, and discovering, figuring out who it is, and following him and seeing what's happening.
Yeah,
and
because like that's why like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson are the main characters, because they are you're seeing the world through their eyes. They don't know anything. They're fresh off of this. Maybe you know the legends too, and you want to find out the truth. You don't tell it from the legends perspective. They already know everything. You don't know anything yet. You got to see it through somebody else's eyes.
Yeah. You should read the comic, and I know you're gonna be like, I don't read comic books, but I'll
write it down.
I want you to read It's a Bird. Yeah, I want you to read It's a Bird. It is the most un-Superman comic, and Superman, I don't even remember if Superman's in it, and it's all about Superman, and It's a Bird is beautiful, and if you read It's a Bird, you'll understand why I love Superman the way I do, because I It's a Bird, Superman for Tomorrow, Superman of all seasons, and these types of stories, they understood that the burden of Superman, and they understood the criticism that everyone has of Superman, and It's a Bird is a haunting book.
Well, just looking at the cover art is like giving me feels, man.
I know.
Like it's haunting.
Yeah, it is very haunting. It's a very haunting story, and it really opened my eyes to
which I love. Things that make me sad. Like you would think, like, girl, you get too emotional. Things make you sad really easily, and it's like I just seek those things out.
Hey, you know what? I'm the one who sits here and like hard cries while watching cartoons. Okay, so well, anime, but still.
I mean, yeah.
He was talking to his dad, okay? I couldn't handle it. It was just too much.
Well, it's like, I know that I shouldn't read books like Female of the Species or watch like 13 Reasons Why, but I do anyway.
Yeah. 13. I thought 13 Reasons Why was beautiful in a lot of ways.
So good.
And that's the thing. And you and I are both very similar that way. We really see, Jude has been going through a tough time just about death, and he wrote a letter to God asking him to, make sure no one dies anymore, and and he hasn't been wanting to watch things that are sad, like Coco. Like he didn't want to watch Coco again, but everyone else wanted to see it and stuff. And I was trying to explain to him, I'm like, I know it's sad, but it's beautiful, and you and I really connect to that beautiful sad.
Yeah.
For me, I think the first time I experienced beautiful sad maybe it's not my first time, but what I can recall was probably American Beauty. That was the first time looking back at my life, I feel like that was the first time I really understood beautiful sadness.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel things when I'm reading books, but like the first time that a book made me sob when I was reading it, and I am going to spoil the ending here for you, so if you don't want to know how to Court of Wings and Ruins end, just like skip ahead. But when Rhysand dies and we get this callback to when Feyre died in the first book, and like her begging for them to save him, it just made my heart explode. It was so poetic. There were so many callbacks. Like the writing was gorgeous, and I just you felt like you were Feyre, like you were screaming along with the world to save this person, the only person who cared about this war, who cared about these people. Like bring him back. Like he didn't deserve it. It was insane.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I'm a big fan of Naruto, and there's this he's an orphan. No one like an orphan like lived on his own. Like basically the village gave him an apartment to live on and was like, figure it out. And no one loved him. He resented everybody. Everyone resented him. He does everything he can to be going from literally the worst student ninja ever. And he does everything to just protect the few people that he cares about and that start to care about him. And he pushes himself and he goes and and he's alone and he never knows like who his parents were. No one will ever tell him. He has no connection to them. He doesn't understand where they went or why he's alone. And like, he's at like the height of this battle where he's basically saving everybody and everyone is like learning what is so special about Naruto, and his dad is able to come to him, and they're having like this moment that we've been waiting for Naruto went on for like 15 years, and they're talking to one another for the first time, and his dad's like disappearing as Naruto's trying to talk. Naruto's trying to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, tell mom that I.
Yeah.
He's like, tell mom I don't eat just ramen, and like I have good friends and girls like me, and it was all built off of backstory and those things that he was saying. Naruto didn't even know that those were the things that his mom was worried about for him, and it just it's beautiful, and stories are so important when you can connect with the characters, and that's why DC needs to learn that DC fans are having a hard time connecting with their characters.
Yeah, it's that connection, because that's what it is. It all comes down to you being emotionally connected and invested in these characters, and DC has lost their way in that.
Yeah. Glad we were able to bring it back to our point.
Let's bring it back before the tears start. Because I'm thinking of like every sad thing right now.
It's all of it. All of it.
All of it. I need to go read some fan fiction or something. No, those are really sad too. Yeah. Wait.
Well, I'm dying for The Last Jedi to come back out. Like I want to watch it on home and stuff, because there's a lot of sad beauty in there. Like Raylo's connection is sad.
It's so tragic and it's so beautiful, and I think that is why I love it so much. And it's just like, that's another reason why I just can't pull myself out of it, because it's just so beautiful. Like I just love it. I love it so much. I mean, obviously I've been reading like a lot of fan fictions, but like the best ones are the ones that completely destroy you and then slowly piece you back together, and it's crazy.
If you want to hear Shannon and I talk more, we're doing Explain This Book to Me about Percy Jackson. It's a lot of fun. Last episode, we had some audio mistake on my end. I think the cable got disconnected, so kind of not great audio on my end. I'm sorry about that. And it's a good episode, too. It sucked, because...
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm going to use this, because it was a great episode.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
Replicated that.
Yeah, and you all know that we put a lot of effort into our production, but sometimes these technical issues happen, Even the nerdist gets it sometimes. So you should be checking that out if you want to hear more. And thank you to all the new people who are checking out DCC on YouTube. Hi. And the podcast is continuing to grow and everything. And everyone, we love you so much. It's meaning so much to us. Your comments are a lot of the time so nice, and being appreciated for the stuff that we're creating means a lot to us. And thank you so much. If you like us, please hit that like button and leave a comment or tweet at us or whatever. We're pretty good at replying. Last night I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning replying to comments on the Fangirls channel. I replied to every single comment people left on that video on her channel. She must be like, what is Dale doing? Like, get off my channel. And we just, because we're trying to build a community, because we want a community. We joke about our egos and stuff like that, but we're doing it because we wanted to build a community. So, thank you so much. And this has been episode 53 of the DCC, and we will see you in a galaxy far, far away. Bye, double hand wave.
Bye.
I gotta figure out this left hand. I'm not doing it right.
I love how we went from me being like super giddy to like talking about like tragic beauty.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Shannon and Dale are emotional roller coasters.
I'm an emotional roller coaster right now.